Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and Jorge Adré.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello, Jorge Adré. Hello, everyone.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I had a rough day, but all good. I'm
Tired?
at home. I am a bit tired. Yes, I didn't stop all day, and yes, not physically, but mentally, it was a demanding day. Lots of stuff to take care of. Lots of notes that I had to take care of some stuff for the next day. So yeah, but all good,
Okay.
all good. And you, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I also had a busy work day, but I'm not as tired as you are.
Yes. And the subject for today has to do also with tiredness, right?
Yeah, it has to do. I proposed you this subject because it was something that you talked about in our early episodes. I think you said something about it in every
Hmm.
in our two or three last episodes, and it was
Hmm.
something that you introduced in your practice not so long ago. So we are going to talk
Hmm.
about the benefits of having a dental office manager.
Hmm.
And since you talked about it on the last episodes, I propose you for us to talk about this and to talk about this because some practice have a dental office manager, some practice don't have a dental office manager.
Hmm.
You yourself introduced, I think, not so long ago, a dental office manager
Yeah.
at your practice.
Yeah.
So I think that we can talk about the responsibilities of a dental
Hmm.
office manager, the qualities of that the professional needs to have to in order to be able to do the job, and of course the benefits that having a dental office manager can bring to a dental practice, because and this I think it relates with something that we said many times in the podcast, and that we sometimes bring over and over again. So, if the owner of the practice is a dentist, and
Hmm.
if you are also a full-time dentist
Yes.
working in chair, then you have to make space for the managing part of the clinic,
Yes.
or
Hmm.
and you have to leave, and not the full-time job as a dentist, and have
Hmm.
part-time manager, part-time dentist, or
Hmm.
you need to hire someone for that part.
Sure. Yeah.
But I want us to go a little bit deeper, because in actually what it means to have a dental office manager, because now you have that experience, and you
Yes.
say and you say it's very positive. So that's why
Yes.
I want maybe starting by that, because you it's not so long ago that you have a dental office manager.
Hmm.
Tell me, why do you think it's so positive, and that you should have done it more
Yeah. Sooner.
sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first, what I feel the most, that it protects my energy and it protects my image, because I have my practice about 20 years, and some of the nurses, they've been with me for that long. And of course, that you always have aware of the relationship. It's not that I never had any big problems with those, with the older nurses or anything like it, but you know how it is. I mean, when you work 20 years with someone, as an employee or whatever, there is always some signs of wear in the relationships, right? because it's just the passage of time, right? And it's 2 decades with the same persons. So and that is also the reason why most businesses were what I call the first layer managers. So let's think about, for example, there's a shop, or there's like, for example, shops in a shopping mall, right? Those shops, they usually have a manager, right? And those managers, they usually change every 3 to 4 years, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that relationships, especially leadership relations, they tend to wear the people that are being managed, right? So this is why there should be a change every 3 to 4 years. I mean, this is common practice in corporate positions, what I call the first layer manager. So the people that manage, the people that are doing the public, that are answering to the public, that are selling clothes or whatever, in supermarkets, in whatever. There's always managers. And again, those managers, they need to change. Why? Because relationships wear down. So, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job in terms of resilience to that, because I've always been working with systems. People understand we could separate personal relationships from working relationships. But still, I felt that there was just too much on my plate, because there's a lot of other things that I do. And could I continue without a manager? Well, I could, because basically what I had is that I had a part-time nurse, and it still is a part-time nurse that does the managing, but now in a more serious position. So I was able to handle stuff. And if you have very organized systems, if you do regular meetings, you are able to organize stuff. And if you also distribute responsibilities to your doctors, if you have an organized team, you can go on without a manager. But I feel I just had too much on my plate. And what I feel is that two things. First of all, it protects my energy. And the second thing is also related to that, is that whenever I have I have to mention to an employee something that needs to be improved, or they are just not following the rules, whenever I have to do some what I call calling the employee to the attention of some specific stuff, whenever I have to do that, it's no matter how careful I am, there's always uh, um, it always draws energy out of you, right? And it those are the things that where the relationships, no matter how professional and no matter how organized you are. And by having a manager, what I do now is if, for example, I used to take notes of stuff. For example, even today I took notes of. We have to improve this sort of behavior in the reception, right? And I took notes for myself. What I used to do is that in the next meeting, I was looking at my notes on the specific folder, and I would talk to the nurse, or look, we had this issue with some patient, and we have to solve this, right? But it was always me that had to do the dirty job, right? It's not dirty, but it's never pleasant, right? And now what happens is that since I have the manager, I have my notes, and I put them directly on the notes of the meeting that this manager will do with the nurses. This means that there is like this buffer, there is like this intermediate person that can filter my message. And because she's closer to the nurses, I think that the message will be more productive, less stressful, more positive, and overall it will be more positive for the nurses, because it will not be me. Basically, there is like this curator of the message, and she will take care, she will make sure that the message comes across, but maybe in a more productive, in a more healthy way than if I was the one that was giving the message. And again, why? Because like we've talked so many times here in the podcast, if you have to see patients, and if you have to take a lot of other responsibilities, when you are in a meeting and something needs to be improved, or you have some criticism to do to some process that is not being done, you don't always have the mental space to make sure that you are conscious enough in the way that you are talking, for example, because sometimes you just want to get the meeting, you just want to get it over with, and you may eventually come across not a little bit more aggressive or not as positive. Whilst if you have a manager, I think those issues can be reduced, and I think this is very positive for me and for the team. At least this is my experience. So this is what I believe to be the two main advantages. If you have a small practice like is growing like my practice is, where you have I don't know, 6 or 7 nurses, and all of a sudden you just want to step away a little bit and have someone that steps in and and does a little bit of your role. And I think that all the practices, once they start to get bigger, they all go through this process.
Hmm. Hmm. And and besides the doing the staff management, so all
Mhm.
the coordination,
Yeah.
so managing the staff and making sure that
Mhm.
the systems and protocols are being
Yeah.
followed.
Mhm.
What more
What else?
responsibilities
Yeah.
do you think? I mean, it can have on your
Yeah.
practice or not, but should be
Yeah.
of the
That's
department of a dental manager.
That's a great question, and I believe that it's highly dependent on each practice. So I think that you should look at your own practice and see what makes sense. What are the things that you want to delegate to this other person? For example, for me, I think the most obvious stuff is paperwork, admin work, right? So if you have a manager, I mean, of course,
Administrative tasks.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Maybe if you have a very big practice, like with, I don't know, maybe 20 shares or 15 shares or 10 shares, this is a whole different level, right? And I'm sure there's someone for administrative tech, there's someone for manager, there's someone for treatment plan coordinators. But in a small practice that is growing, you need to have flexibility. And sometimes some of these managers will eventually share their time. Maybe they can do like one day still nursing, one day admin work, administrative work, and the rest of the day manager. So, what I mean by this is that this does not have to be a full time task, right? Because actually, in the beginning, if you want to hire a manager that only does management, it's a financial burden, right? It is something that you need to think about financially, because it is an additional person in the practice that's only doing management, and they are not directly helping, or in the cleaning room, or in the or helping the doctors, or in the reception. And in in practices that are small, you need to have this flexibility, because someone gets pregnant, someone is sick, someone is on vacation. This is why you need flexibility, and this is an idea that I think that you should always consider. So you adapt to your own reality. My reality is that this was a nurse, and I'm going to tell you the story of how this nurse became a manager. But this was a nurse. This means that she has capacities to also still doing the task of the nurse, right? But she does this less and less. Yeah. So you were asking?
I was going to ask, but that can be for the next subject of our conversation. If you think that in order to be a good dental
Mhm.
office manager,
Yeah.
a person should have knowledge about the dental
Hmm.
procedures, and
Hmm.
if you think that's important, because I think that's important.
Yeah, I don't think that is essential, but that certainly helps, right? Don't think that's essential, but that certainly helps. But just to finish this topic on the responsibility of her, my manager, she does administrative work, she does management of people, and she all management of nurses. She does regular meetings with the nurses. She makes sure that the systems are working. And one thing that she always does in the meetings now is she goes back to the protocol, to the written system. So maybe half of the meeting that she has with the nurses is okay. So today we are going to focus on a specific task of the protocol of the systems, and we are going to revise it to see if they need some upgrade. For example, we may have some protocol for answering the phone, but so let's read what we have here and see if we are still doing that or if we are improving something. And this is a very critical part, because this also brings to the team the systems mindset, the protocols, the written protocols mindset. So they understand that this is actually something that they can be a part of, that they can contribute to, and not something that is written and nobody cares about. So this is really important. So management, taking care about situations, or maybe you just bought a new product, or maybe there's some new protocol, but also revising the old ones and upgrading them. So my manager, she does admin work, she does administrative work, she does management of people, and she also revises the systems, and she still works as a nurse maybe 1, sometimes 2 days per week. So there needs to be this flexibility. So in my practice, because it's not a big practice, I choose to have this flexibility. Yeah.
And because you have a very, systems and protocols in place, maybe you
Mhm.
don't need it. But do you think if on a practice that does not have those protocols in place, do you think that this person can also handle finances, or also, I don't know, managing inventory and the supplies, things like that? Because I think
Well,
because
yeah.
in your practice, due to the fact that you have indeed all of this running already with good protocols in
Mhm.
place,
Mhm.
maybe this person doesn't need to do that, because that is
Sure.
already taken care of. But in a
Sure.
practice that does not have those protocols, this
Mhm.
person can also have this
Sure.
functions
Sure.
of handle
Sure.
finances and
Yeah,
that
sure.
inventory and
Yeah.
ordering
Yeah.
supplies.
Yeah, I think that it again, it depends on the needs of each practice, but for sure they can do financial, administrative work, handling inventories, making sure that orders are made, keeping the stock, organizing the stock, for sure. But
Coordinating with the several dental professionals in
you mean you mean treatment coordinator. That could also be. But the thing with treatment coordinator is that this is a role that I think it should be additional to the manager. I think the manager is more critical than the treatment coordinator. I
Mhm.
love treatment
So
coordinators. Yeah.
basically what you are saying is that this person does not have a relation, for example, with patients, a direct relations with
Yes.
patients, right?
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes. It doesn't, like, again, it doesn't mean that she cannot handle reception once in a while, because if you are small, you need flexibility. When you are growing, you need this flexibility. But ideally, I don't think that this person should be handling patients.
Okay.
I don't think so, because the thing is that and Americans, they do this very well. They if you think about the way that Americans work in dental practice, they are always trying to protect their mental health. This is very interesting. For example, there's a lot of dental hygienists not to overwhelm, or not to place too much work on the dentist. There's treatment plan coordinators not to mix money with the doctor, not to avoid that the doctor talks about money. And then there is managers, again, to relieve the burden of the dentist. I mean, this is a very typical in any dental practice in the US, even in sometimes in the UK. Even small practices, they have managers, they have plan coordinators, and so this is something, and some of you may work in countries where, or in practice where this exists. But I think that managers, they can eventually contact with patients. I think that treatment coordinators should contact with patients. Treatment coordinators, they need to be very good in terms of patient communication, in terms of social skills, communication skills, while managers, they need to be good in managing people, which is a different story, managing a whole team. Because the treatment coordinator basically sees the patient for a given period of time and then it goes away. The manager has to handle the same group of people, sometimes for years. And those are completely different skills. So leading is, as you know, very, very difficult because I mean, if your relationship with the person is going to be temporary, as it is the relation of plan or treatment coordinator with the client, everything is easy, right? The thing is that when they almost become family, right? And this is where the skills of managing people really enters. And I believe that people that are good managers, and again, we can talk about having a transition from the nurse to a manager, but if you want to just hire one that is completely fresh, I think that good managers are, for example, people that have worked in restaurants, people that have worked in supermarkets, people that are used to that have been managers in those places. Because if you work in a restaurant or in a bar or in a nightclub, you know how to handle um, all the issues, like employees come late, employees get sick, and you have to improvise and you have to reorganize the schedule, and you are used to this, right? So managers that have been on the role before, where the people that they manage were directly in contact with clients, those are the best managers in my opinion. Now, yeah, sorry.
No, I was going then to since you are talking already about the qualities, I was going to the to the qualities that a
Yeah,
dental office manager
I
should have.
I and it's for example, for me, I think managing people is some of them. It's probably the most difficult task in my life at this point in time, for sure. It is, and it's not like it's something that I don't like. It is just something that wears you out, especially if you have so many other stuff to like I do. And this was the reason for me that I decided to upgrade a dental nurse to manager, because like I was saying, relationships wear out, right? And then you can come across as being very aggressive. When I mean aggressive, not in a physical way, but sometimes you know that sometimes not what you say is the way that you say that, the way that you say. And I felt that I was in some situations I was so tired and fed up, for example, of saying the same thing over and over. And sometimes those are little things. Let me give you an example. We do a lot of treatment. We do a lot of interdisciplinary treatments. There was this guy that was the treatment plan was 17,000 euros, right? And we were talking between each other back and forth through emails because we want to be very productive on the email stuff because we want to make sure that we communicate in a very effective way and not having to call someone. But we were communicating all the doctors, and there is one of the doctors that I have that just can't figure out how to answer everybody on the email and only answers one person on the email. And this has been gone like for, I don't know, maybe 2 years. It's not that that this person fails every time, but it's like every month they fail with this. So, and this becomes very annoying, for example, for a guy like me that look, this is childish. Look, I've been asking you over and over. When you have a discussion between four doctors and everybody's going back and forth, when you answer, you have to reply to all. It's not only reply to all. Those are very basic stuff, right? But it was like maybe the fifth time over the last year, and I was really pissed off. And I was like, look, in the meeting, I was like, look, we have two options. Either you do what you're supposed to do, and there was some other stuff involved. Either you do what you're supposed to, or I will drop the percentage of all the doctors here and hire a treatment plan coordinator because you just can't handle this. Childish things like not even replying to all on an email and creating a lot of confusion on the discussion. Because when you reply to me, when we are in the discussion, there has been 5 or 6 emails back and forth with where everybody is replying to all. And when all of a sudden you just forget, and you always forget, and you just reply to one person, it creates a lot of confusion because now the other person don't understand. Well, you may say, well, why don't you use Slack or Trello or this or this? Well, you could use all that. Of course, you could use all that. But this is just a question of being conscious and being attentive to what you're doing. So it's a very childish mistake for me. It's a very and and I think that it comes to a point after 20 years, and sometimes having to call the attention to the person over and over for the last 2 years, you just get fed up. And the way that you come across is extremely aggressive. I was letting him, look, do you want me to? And I became very ironic and very cynic, because I can really, really be aggressive in that sense. And I was telling, look, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to pay you 1 month of a retreat, maybe to the south of Portugal, just with one goal, which is to teach you how to reply to all on an email? This is the kind of person that I become. And this is very, so this cynism, this irony, and this aggressiveness is something that it's very easy to come out when you are managing people, and on top of that you also have to treat patients, and we all do that. And the reason why we do that is that sometimes in order for you to be able to live, sometimes you have to risk being offensive sometimes. And when you are, even if you're not disrespectful, when you're ironic or when you're cynic, and this is very easy, especially if you have seen 10 patients during that day. And then in the end, you're going to have the meeting with the staff, because this is like a recurrent mistake. But this is the issue here is me, right? Because people, you will always have people doing the mistakes. And sometimes you may feel that these are childish mistakes, these are stupid mistakes, this is over and over and over. And sometimes you have already fined them with money, right? So basically there are fines, and I take money out of the pockets of the dentists and the nurses sometimes to give to charity. So every time that there is a mistake, and we've talked about that. But let's imagine someone is doing a mistake and you just find them 3 or 4 times, and this just keeps happening. And this person, they don't do this because it's not that there's nothing bad, there's no bad intentions here. It's just distraction. But this distraction creates a huge problem in terms of communication, especially if you have a lot of interdisciplinary treatments going on, right? So, what is the mistake here? The mistake here is my reactivity, right? And my reactivity, it's almost impossible to control if you have a lot of stuff going on, right? If you have courses, if you have patients, if you have articles and stuff like that. So this is why a manager would handle this in a much wiser way. Why? Because their head is just fresher than mine, and they are just much more focused, and they will not come across as cynic or as aggressive. And I think that anyone that has a practice or that manages a practice and also works in the practice can relate to this example that I just said, because all of a sudden you may you may risk making the mistake of believing that everybody's stupid around you. No, and if you think that everybody's stupid and they all do mistakes, maybe you are the problem, right? Maybe you are the issue, right? Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're reactive, because everybody, they will always do mistakes. They will always do mistakes. But because you are alone managing, you expect that everybody is perfect, and that's never going to happen. While if you have a manager that is there specific for this task, they will handle the situations in a much wiser way, in a much calmer way. So
Mhm.
so yes, for me, it's really important at this point in time to have a manager.
Mhm. So, someone that has it might have or not have the knowledge of dentistry.
Yes. Hmm.
Someone with good communication skills.
Sure. I would say
Uh,
management skills slash communication skills,
mhm. Okay.
because I think that communication with patients it's one thing, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Communications for the team, it's a different story.
But okay, communication to ensure that everyone is on the same page, and to
Hmm.
be able to assure that things run smoothly in the practice.
Yeah.
Um, Someone that can, do you think that because dentistry is stressful, and we know how dental clinics can be, someone that can handle
Mhm.
pressure also?
For sure, for sure. Someone
Hmm.
that can. I mean, anyone that works in human resources has the skills for this, right? Just to be able to just to make sure that people get along, right? And one of the things that we were talking about, which is if it makes sense to have a transition, to have a nurse that transitions to a manager. I'm gonna tell you my experience. So a few years ago, when my practice started to get bigger, I initiated this process. I said, look, we are gonna we need some days specific for administrative work and for management. And we are going to start this one day. And I went to the older nurses and asked, well, what would you like to do? What do you think about administrative role or a management role? And there will be benefits. Because you'll be managing your colleagues, and it doesn't make sense that you earn the same as them. So your salary will increase, number one. And you also have the possibility of working eventually one day per week from home to take care of paperwork and stuff like that. And you will not be working as a nurse, or you'll be here maybe one day not working as a nurse. And this needs to be flexible. So it depends on our availability, because at least I, with 4 dental shares, I didn't have the financial resources to all of a sudden just increase the number of employees just for managing. So did this transition smoothly. This started, I would say, maybe 5 years ago. And I went to the older nurse and said, look, there's this possibility. And one of them was in the reception. No, I love to be in the reception. I want to be here. Okay. The other one said, no, I like to be with patients, so I'm going to be here. The other said, oh no, eventually I'm thinking about maybe becoming an oral hygienist or something, so I'm going to keep here. I said, look, okay, that's fine. But look, if you say that you prefer not to be a manager, some of the newer nurses that will eventually come, they will become managers. So are you okay with having someone here that has less experience than you managing you? This is very important. So, and I said no. And on top of this conversation, I sent them an email to everybody. Look, I talked to this, and this person, and they prefer not to be managers. This means that some of the newer nurses, they will become managers. Okay. So one of the newer nurses said, do you like management? Yes, yes, I did. I did that before in some places that I work. Okay. Would you be willing to start gradually incorporating management tasks in your roles? And this means a higher salary, possibility of working from home, possibility of being here, not helping doctors as well. Well, let's do it. And as time goes by, and I was telling you, look, I don't know if you understand. Do you think that you have the emotional skills to handle this? Because some of the people here that are your friends, they may, that friendship may be jeopardized by the fact that you're a manager. And this is very typical of me. I really like to talk about the issues, the elephant in the room, because these are things that really happen. So maybe they are both laughing during the lunchtime. This is one thing, but once there is one of the nurse that is managing the others, the dynamics change here, right? And they need to be prepared for that. And I was telling you, look, are you ready for this changing dynamics? And I told her that, and all the other nurses said, look, you are all friends, but if you have someone that's going to become a manager, you may eventually find some issues in terms of friendship and so on. Is everybody on board here? Is everybody prepared for this? I don't want any drama here, but I am aware that this might happen. So I'm just want to make sure that number one, I asked the older nurse, they said no. So this is not something that someone comes here and just just um, just passes everybody ahead. This is not going to happen. And number two, I want you to understand that this is a professional. This is a professional thing, and your friendships may eventually be jeopardized because there was someone else that's going to be taking care of the management. But even so, you still have some issues, of course. Even so, you still have some issues. But in the meetings, when I realized there was some issues, for example, the role of this manager has progressed up to a point where my manager now stays 2 days per week at home, and only one of the days, or only one of the afternoons, she works as a dental nurse. So this is the thing that worked for me. Is this the only solution? By no means. Having someone that has not been a nurse and get into a practice and only do management, can that work? For sure it can work. But I think that having someone that does the dynamics, I think there is also advantages. So it depends on the situation. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on the dynamics of the team. It depends on so many things. For example, I have 7 nurses. Actually, I have 6 nurses plus one tech guy plus one social media girl. And 6 nurses, there's always one on vacation. There's always one that has to go with the kid or with the family to the doctor. There's always one that is sick. I mean, there's this. These are things that are part of the game, right? So, in a country like Portugal, if you have a small practice with 4 dental chairs, you cannot just afford a dental manager, right? Because what happens is that if you use a dental manager, all of a sudden, if there is someone that is not that is sick, the nurses will say, "Well, we are so overloaded with work because someone is on vacation, and there is this girl that came here, or this guy that is here is a manager, and this money would have been much more helpful if we would hire an additional nurse." So you see how the dynamics are difficult in dental practices, because there's a lot of human resources that you need, and finances, they are not infinite, right? They are limited. No matter how good you do, they are limited, right? You have to think about you have to think about financial sustainability, right? So again, yes, I think that nurses can become very good managers, but you need to make sure that this transition comes is smoothly, because there's always going to be changes in dynamics. There's always going to be some emotional issues. But I think this is a good solution if you take proper precautions in terms of communication with the whole team. Also, if you have some other option, which is someone comes as a manager, just make sure that this does not also create problems. That make sure that the new person that is coming, understands the dynamics of the team. So both situations can work.
Okay, perfect. Um, my
This,
last.
sorry, did this make sense? What I said so far?
Yes, yes, of course. Yeah, yeah, it makes total sense. And I just wrote something while you were talking here. That is my last
Mhm,
question, if you want to.
mhm,
Is if you agree that, because it was kind of a conclusion that I
mhm,
had, is that it's one of the benefits of having a dental office manager is less
mhm.
stress for the team,
Sure. Yeah,
right?
less stress for the team. I think so. Yes, less stress for the owner, less stress for the team. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Excluding the fact that if this person was a previous nurse, in the initial transition there may be some jealousy. No matter how well intended you are, no matter all the precautions that you take, this is going to create some issues, some jealousy, for example. Yeah.
Okay.
human
Okay.
human nature
Human nature. Yeah.
is difficult, and we've talked about this before, and because we lecture so much on this on the courses, and sometimes I think to myself, well, what am I doing wrong? If I'm becoming a little bit fed up of management, what am I doing wrong? And the conclusion that I arrive is very simple: there's just too much on my plate. uh, So and that was the big conclusion. Like you always said, if you are not rested, if you cannot be aware of
Mhm,
your own
mhm,
emotions and emotion on the other. So you need to be rested. You need to make sure
mhm.
that you have energy to do this stuff. Yeah.
But that's usually what I see when dentists complain about, yeah, about managing people. And I hear this a lot from dental practice owners that if the job was just the working in chair, they would be happy, but the
Mhm.
managing people is the problem. And the conclusion when I start making some question is just exactly what you said. They have too much on their plate. They have to do it all. And
Mhm.
and it starts by by starting to understand how can they delegate more,
Yeah.
what can be done
Mhm.
by others, because just like you said, I mean, each dental clinic has its own specific situation,
Mhm.
and there's some things that a dental office manager can do in a dental practice, and on another makes no sense.
Yes.
But I think that it's important if you are a dental practice owner, and if you are the manager at the same time of that practice, you have to just, and if you feel that you have a lot on your plate, and if your biggest problem is to manage people, maybe yeah, you have a lot going on, and the
But
solution can start.
have, have,
Mhm.
having said that having the nurse transition to a manager is good, I think there's also a good thing of having someone completely external coming in and trying to organize, because sometimes you may feel that you have lost control of the team, right? This is also very common. So I just lost control. I mean, they are just, it's very difficult because they all talk to each other and this and that, and they protect each other. So I lost control. These are situations where having an external manager is very good.
Mhm.
And when I look back, I was always afraid of the financial burden. When I look back, I probably should have done like a full time, or maybe having this transition faster, not so gradual up to this point. I'll probably have this transition faster, of having a nurse becoming a manager, and because the if you have more headspace, the financial return is going to be bigger as well, and you're going to feel better. You're going to be more productive, and it will eventually pay off the manager costs.
Mhm. Okay.
That was a
I don't
good
know if you
one.
want to
That was a
to.
that was that this was a good summary of what I believe that goes typically through a dental practice that is growing. These are very very typical and very common issues that small dental practices, when they start to grow, they face. And I think it is there was an example that we just said, which is when you grow and when you hire a manager, and even still, if for example, for a nurse is sick, or someone is on vacation, the other nurses will be overwhelmed by work, and it's tempting to say, oh, you see, we didn't need a manager. What we actually needed was an additional nurse. But if you think that way, you are always on the loophole, right? So you
Mhm,
need to step
mhm,
up and hire someone that can do management, or just having a nurse that is just there just to do management.
mhm, mhm. And just ending by saying that about our conscious leadership course. I
Yes.
mean, if you want to know more, and if you're having problems on managing and the staff, that's what our course is about. So just go to softbites.online. The next edition is in October, and you have all the information there.
All right.
And
Thank you,
thank you.
Manuel, once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you,
See you
Andre.
next
And thank
week.
you, everyone, for listening to us. See you next week.
Okay. Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.